Welcome back, and a quick check on the weather now, where Hurricane Kirk made landfall across Western Europe, drenching parts of France. This forced French firefighters to evacuate some households in the Essonne department near Paris, as some regions remained on red alert. We understand that authorities in France had warned the public of intense rainfall and high risk of flooding in more than 30 areas. Meanwhile, recovery efforts is underway in Florida after a powerful Hurricane Milton churned through the U.S. state of Florida on Wednesday, killing at least 16 people. This drone footage you are watching shows the aftermath of the deadly storm in Siesta Key, Florida, a coastal community about 50 miles south of Tampa. More than 2 million homes and businesses are still without power as authorities are warning of more flooding in the coming days. American credit agency Fitch Ratings says insured losses from Hurricane Milton could range between $30 billion and $50 billion, adding it would be the largest insured loss since the Hurricane Ian, its external, in 2022. And you're watching this dramatic rescue in the Gulf of Mexico, which is approximately 30 miles off the Florida coast. Against all odds and the surges from Hurricane Milton, a man, as you can see, was rescued by the United States Coast Guard aircrew, who survived in the ocean by clinging to a cooler to stay afloat. The Coast Guard lowered a diver to the man as part of the rescue, who was later taken to Tampa General Hospital for medical treatment. Well, such heroics there by the U.S. Coast Guard. We stay in the U.S. as President Joe Biden is urging Congresses to address disaster relief funding needs following Hurricane Milton. Members of the House of Representatives and Senate are not scheduled to return to Washington until after the November 5 presidential U.S. elections. And Mr. Biden says the Federal Emergency Management Agency would open disaster recovery centers all across the states to cater to communities impacted by the storm. Let's take a listen to Mr. Biden.
This is a whole of government effort. It also includes the Department of Energy, Department of Transportation, Department of Health and Human Services, and the Department of Housing and Urban Development, which is providing mortgage relief for impacted homeowners. As directed, FEMA is going to open disaster recovery centers all across the impacted communities right away. So there's one stop the residents can go to learn about support they might need, and they'll be advertised where those places are. I think Congress should move as rapidly as they can, particularly on the most immediate need, which is small business. Vice President Harris and I said yesterday, and we'll say it again, to anyone who seeks to take advantage of our fellow Americans' desperation, whether you're a company engaging in price gouging or a citizen trying to scam your neighbors, we will go after you and we will hold you accountable. All the things, that $750 that they're talking about, Mr. Trump and all those other people know it's a lie to suggest that's all they're going to get. That's bizarre. It's bizarre. They got to stop this. They're being so damn un-American with the way they're talking about this stuff. But there's going to be a need for significant amounts of money. We're already underway at trying to calculate what the cost will be because we don't want to mislead anybody. We want to make sure all the costs are able to be covered. Our fellow Americans are putting their lives on the line to do this dangerous work and receive death penalties. Some received death penalties yesterday as a result of reckless, irresponsible, relentless disinformation and outright lies that continue to flow. Those who engage in such lies are undermining confidence in the rescue and recovery work that's opening and ongoing. As I speak, they're continuing. These lies are also harmful to those who most need help. Lives are on the line. People are in desperate situations. Have the decency to tell them the truth. So let me say this. To all the people impacted by Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton, despite the misinformation and lies, the truth is we're providing the resources needed to rescue, recover, and rebuild.
Meanwhile, U.S. Vice Presidents and Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris echoed Mr. Biden's support, pledging aid reliefs for people affected by Hurricane Milton. She made the announcement during her campaign rally in Phoenix, Arizona. She says the Biden administration will be with those affected by the storm in every step of the way as they aim towards recovery and rebuilding.
Before I continue, I will say a few words about Hurricane Milton, which has cut a path of devastation across Florida and follows closely, of course, on the heels of the damage caused by Hurricane Helene to communities across the Southeast. I know, as you do, that our heart goes out to everyone who has been impacted by these storms. Our administration has mobilized thousands of federal personnel across the region to work hand in hand with local and state officials to give folks the help they need. I have spoken with state, local officials, both Republican and Democrat, to let them know we will be with you every step of the way as you recover and rebuild.
Well, from Vice President Kamala Harris to her opponent, former U.S. President Donald Trump has sought to portray the Biden-Harris administration's response to recent storms as ineffective. During his campaign rally in Detroit, Michigan, Mr. Trump criticized the federal government, saying they left people to suffer unjustly following Storm Helene and Milton.
4 years ago, when I left office, we had no inflation. We had virtually, just think of it, we had virtually no inflation for the entire 4 years. So when people made money, that was really their money. It wasn't money that they have to give back to a source that they know nothing about, including government. Under Biden and Harris, because of inflation, the economy has been a total disaster. I had my GTO. I was something, man. I'd put that top down. See, in those days, I didn't mind when the hair waved. I'd go fast, and that hair would be waving, that blonde hair, and I'd say, who the hell can take me? Nobody. Today, I'm a little more careful. I want to cover up that little area up there. It's a little bit soft up there. Cover it up. No, it was great, but you had a great.
And from one former U.S. president to another, this time Barack Obama, he has made a plea to black people to support Democratic nominee Kamala Harris. He made this surprise appeal during a rally at Pittsburgh College campus aimed at spurring young people to show up for the November 5 election. Mr. Biden has been a vocal supporter of Ms. Harris since she ascended to the top of the Democratic ticket after President Joe Biden stepped down in July. He made a passionate case against Donald Trump, saying he only cared about his own ego and money. He stressed that Harris was raised in the middle class and believed in American values.
So I get it, why people are looking to shake things up. I mean, I am the hopey changey guy. So I understand people feeling frustrated and feeling we can do better. What I cannot understand is why anybody would think that Donald Trump will shake things up in a way that is good for you, Pennsylvania. I don't understand that. Because there is absolutely no evidence that this man thinks about anybody but himself. I've said it before. Donald Trump is a 78-year-old billionaire who has not stopped whining about his problems since he rode down his golden escalator 9 years ago. We are heartbroken about the loss of life in Florida, North Carolina, states across the Southwest. We are thinking about people, families whose lives have been upended by the storms over the last couple of weeks. I could not be more grateful for the first responders and FEMA professionals who have put themselves in harm's way to try and help. You know, it's times like this when you realize having honest, competent, Leadership in government really matters. President Biden and Vice President Harris were down there meeting with local officials and comforting families, asking how they could help. And Donald Trump at a rally just started making up stories about the Biden administration withholding aid from Republican areas and siphoning off aid to give to undocumented immigrants. Just made the stuff up. Everybody knew it wasn't true.
Away from the U.S. now, gunmen have killed at least 20 people at the coal mine in Balochistan province in southwestern Pakistan. The incident, which occurred in the early hours of today, saw the attackers storming the workers' living quarters at the Junaid Coal Company mines, rounding the men up and opening fire on them. 6 injured people are receiving treatment at a hospital in the Duki district. We understand the police have identified 4 of the victims as Afghans, while the rest of the men were from Pashto-speaking areas of the province. They also confirmed that the attackers used heavy weapons, including rockets and grenades. No group has claimed responsibility yet for the incident. Nearly 2,000 people marched in Mexico's Chapalcingo on Thursday evening, demanding justice for the assassination of the city's mayor, Alejandro Arcos Catalan. Last week, the body of the mayor was found decapitated inside a car in the eastern part of the city just 1 week after he assumed office. Upon taking office, Mayor Arcos had announced a security strategy to combat violence and crime, which included hiring more police officers and following up on complaints and investigations against 2 criminal groups operating in the city. The protesters are also calling on authorities to clarify the crime and apprehend those responsible. And still ahead on the program, Ethel Kennedy, activist and wife of Robert Kennedy, dies at age 96. We have details in just a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back and thanks indeed for staying with us. Nihon Hindakyo, that's a Japanese organization of atomic bomb survivors that has won the 2024 Nobel Peace Prize just a moment ago. Also known as the Hibakusha, the survivors of the 1945 bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, was recognized by the Norwegian Nobel Committee for its campaign to ensure a nuclear-free world. The Nobel Peace Prize, worth 11 million Swedish crowns, is due to be presented in Oslo on December 10, the anniversary of the death of Swedish industrialist Alfred Nobel, who founded the awards in his 1895 will.
The Norwegian Nobel Committee has decided to award the Peace Prize for 2024 to the Japanese organization Nihon Hindakyo. This grassroots movement of atomic bomb survivors from Hiroshima and Nagasaki, also known as Hibakusha, is receiving the Peace Prize for its efforts to achieve a world free of nuclear weapons, and for demonstrating through witness testimony that nuclear weapons must never be used again.
You're watching The World Today. Just a bit of sports now. Germany football coach Jurgen Klopp was appointed head of global soccer for Red Bull this week. But in his country home, we understand that he has received a lot of criticisms. Well, let's get some perspective now from Berlin, where the DW correspondent Mathis Richmond joins us live on the program. Mathis, we all had expected Jurgen Klopp to go to a big club, but he decided to sign on with Red Bull. Just why?
Yeah, just to recap briefly, Jurgen Klopp is a 57-year-old German football coach who just recently left the English club Liverpool, having won Champions League and won Premier League since joining in 2015. And he's generally liked in Germany for his very outspoken and joking ways. And Red Bull, the maker of energy drinks, is the owner of several football clubs, including RB Leipzig in Germany's Bundesliga, and other clubs in Austria, the US, Brazil, and now also in Japan. The company further owns 2 Formula One racing teams and is quite well known for massive sponsoring deals in extreme sports. Klopp and the company said on Wednesday that he signed a contract to start as a head of global soccer from January 1st, 2025. In his statement, he said he would see his role, and I cite, primarily as a mentor for the coaches and management of the Red Bull clubs. He also said the role would give him the opportunity to learn again about how to develop football further.
So, with this background, it sounds like a pretty good deal for both club and Red Bull. So why is this move so controversial in Germany?
Yeah, so the deal came as a surprise for some because Klopp had just recently said to be going on a sabbatical. But the underlying conflict here is a debate that's been brewing in Germany for ages, the juxtaposition of tradition and commercial ambitions. Klopp had been seen more as a traditionalist in this debate so far, spending his career at clubs that sit in opposition to everything Red Bull stands for. He himself had spoken out in favor of Red Bull's RB Leipzig before, defending, for example, the club's massive cash pile. He had said 2 years ago, and I quote, "I am also a traditionalist. However, I think Leipzig hasn't taken anything away from traditional clubs. They just went a new path." And he referred to the fact that Leipzig came into Germany's Bundesliga with a lot of money to get started, buying up some of the best players. He said the field has leveled since, however, and especially with the club now receiving larger sums of money because they compete in the prestigious Champions League. The Austrian company Red Bull has been met with widespread uproar by fans across the country because it seems to circumvent the Bundesliga's 50+1 ownership rules, which are designed to give the club's paying members ultimate control of the clubs. Some football supporters across Germany consider newcomers to embody creeping commercialization of the sport. And then there is Red Bull, the company itself. They are perceived as controversial by some because with its aggressive marketing efforts, it may be contributing to cloaking negative health effects of its only physical product, its energy drink. At the same time, some have criticized the company's Austrian TV channel as a platform for right-wing and conspiracy theory contents. Lastly, the majority owners of Red Bull are the Thai family Yovidia. The family had been named for possible tax fraud and money laundering in the past, and just recently, prosecutors in Thailand reopened a hit-and-run case involving an heir of the super-rich and well-connected family.
I mean, Mathis, we have to go now, but allow me to squeeze in just one final question. What's next for Red Bull and club?
Yeah, so Red Bull will get Jürgen Klopp's expertise from next year onwards. The announcement came just a week after the football coach had received Germany's highest civic order for his advocacy for democracy. Reports by Sky Germany furthermore say his contract includes a clause that would allow him to become Germany's national team head coach in the future.
Well, it's a fine place to anchor a conversation with you, DW correspondent Mathis Richman, live for us in Berlin, Germany. To other stories now, the trial of American rapper Sean Diddy Combs has been set for May the 5th, 2025. Sean Diddy's mother and children can be seen leaving the Manhattan federal court following the hearing. The 54-year-old pleaded not guilty to a 3-count indictment last month. He faces a sentence of up to life in prison, a minimum of 15 years if convicted of the 3 counts he faces: racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. And Ethel Kennedy, a long-time human rights advocate, has died at the age of 96. She endured a series of tragedies that included the assassination of her husband, Robert F. Kennedy, and the untimely deaths of 2 of their 11 children. Her demise was announced by her grandson, Joseph Kennedy III, in a social media post which reads, quote, "It is with our hearts full of love that we announce the passing of our amazing grandmother, Ethel Kennedy. She died this morning from complications related to a stroke suffered last week." She was by Robert F. Kennedy's side when he was fatally shot at the kitchen of the Ambassador Hotel in L.A. on the 5th of June, 1968, just after winning the Democratic presidential primary in California. Her brother-in-law, President John F. Kennedy, had been assassinated in Dallas less than 5 years earlier. Ethel Kennedy sustained herself through her Catholic faith and devotion to family. Well, it's the International Day of the Girl Child, and today 1 in 5 young women between the ages of 20 and 24 years were married as children, while globally 75% of new HIV infections among adolescents occur in girls. That's according to the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF's Chief of Field Office for Southwest Nigeria, Celine Lafokriye. She was speaking in her remarks to observe the day, which is a key global movement to celebrate girls everywhere, amplifying their voices, actions, and leadership. And Joy Ebaide is a young woman who is pushing her limits in her own way. The first woman to bike solo from East to West Africa, Joy is also an Afrobeat singer from Ubaja in Esson East local government area of Edo State. She started her journey in Mombasa and traveled through Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Tanzania, and Zambia, as well as other countries. She completed that journey in Nigeria after covering 11,000 kilometers of road in 3 months. She encountered visa restrictions, bad roads, and animal attacks on the way, but was not deterred. Joy is preparing to embark on a second trip from Lagos to Morocco, and earlier she spoke to my colleague Ayotunde Balogun on her adventurous journey.
Since the last time I came here, 3 months ago, I've been preparing for this trip. So the first trip I did, Kenya to Nigeria, I had about a year to prepare, so that was okay. That was easy-ish.
A year?
About a year. I'd already had the plan. I'd conceived the plan a year ago, and I'd already started the mental preparation before starting the physical preparations. But for this one, it's different. It's different because I got back to Nigeria on the 30th of June this year. July had me resting because I'd just done a formidable trip. August had me going from one place to another, courtesy visits and stuff, traveling. Then I literally had September to fully prepare. So I'm not expecting this to be 100 smooth because even the one I prepared for a year wasn't so smooth. But that's what I've been up to, and I am looking forward to starting the trip.
So when do you plan to start this trip, to Morocco?
I'm actually supposed to start very early tomorrow.
Oh, very early tomorrow?
Yes, I'm leaving by 6 a.m.
So you have supporters, I'm sure, Joy, and how does that make you feel, embarking on this next chapter?
I feel good. I feel great. I'm scared. I'm scared. I can't lie about that because I feel like there's this voice I can't shut in my head. And it's so persistent. It's telling me, what if you were only lucky the first time? But I know I am a very careful person. I'm a very responsible person. That's what I have confidence in. So yeah, I am looking forward to it, and I am ready to embark on it, not knowing what would happen, but I'm ready.
Of course, in your first trip, you did encounter some challenges, as we did understand, and perhaps different conditions. How are you going to be prepared for some of these new challenges that might come up?
Okay,
psychologically, emotionally, perhaps even spiritually.
Yeah, financially.
Financially.
Yeah. Okay, so the first trip, Kenya to Nigeria, my main challenge wasn't even the snake attack. It was getting visa, because I had to get visa independently for every country. Unlike in Europe, where you get one visa for all, here in Africa, we are craving a borderless Africa, but we are still with borders. So thankfully, for this trip, I don't have visa challenges. I think I only need visa in Morocco and Mauritania.
And finally, on the program, it's not your usual sights in North Korea, as the country is usually busy with its display of military might and nuclear prowess. But thousands of North Koreans took out time to celebrate the 79th anniversary of the ruling Workers' Party of Korea with dancing and fireworks at an outdoor gala. Well, that story does it for us here on The World Today this week. Thanks indeed for watching. On behalf of the production team and everyone here, I'm Kelly Giga. But we urge you to stick around here on Channels TV. Sports News is next with Chris. You are absolutely in great hands.